guys, it is April from Getting Hookah With It. Today I am here to chat with you about all of the books that I read in July. It was a good month in some ways and a really bad month in other ways, so let's get into it. So I only read 4 books in July. What? I don't know how this happened to me, but I only read 4. One of them was a very short poetry collection. No idea what happened. So that was annoying for me because I was starting to get on a roll. I was doing better with my reading and then just took a dive. I did read some fun books. Some of them I liked better than others. So book number 1 that I completed in July was Still House Lake by Rachel Caine. This one I really enjoyed. It was a thriller about a woman who drives home one day and finds that someone has basically driven into her garage, I think. The police are there. They're, wondering what in the world has happened. How did this accident happen? But more upsetting is the body that was strung up in the garage where her husband has like a woodworking area. And she discovers that her husband was a major serial killer. I had no idea. Basically, she leaves. Obviously, you don't stay with a serial killer if you can help it. She moves on with her life. However, her life is pretty much ruined because people are so upset with her. They think that she must have known about this. And so she has to leave and change her name. She also has to change the names of her 2 children who she had with this madman, basically. And she moves to this kind of remote town, and there's a house on a lake that she either rents or buys, and it's called Still House Lake. And then suddenly bodies are being discovered in the lake that are discarded the same way that her husband discarded the bodies the women that he killed. And so she is freaking out, thinking that her husband, even though he's in jail, somehow people know about where she is. Maybe this is a copycat. And I loved this. I gave it 4 stars. I was totally in, and it's very gritty. It actually reminded me a lot of Karen Slaughter. Their writing is kind of similar in that sense, that it's very gritty, it's brutal. Like, this is not a place to start with a thriller. If you like domestic thrillers or something where nothing really horrific happens, maybe don't get this. Maybe don't pick this up. But I was thrilled because I love Karen Slaughter, and I was looking for another author that I could get on board with. This is just book 1 in a series, so that is very exciting that I have a whole series I can go through. I would like to see her do some standalone thrillers because not everyone wants a whole series, but it's great that I have a whole series I can get to. The next book I finished in July was Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I listened to this on audiobook. I really do recommend, if you can get your hands on the audiobook, it was a lot of fun. This is written very differently. It's written in interview format, so you meet a bunch of band members. The band is called Daisy Jones and the Six. They were this big, huge band in the 60s and 70s, I think. And we meet each and every one of the band members, and it's about their lives on the road, addictions that they have. There's love stories in here. It was a lot of fun. In the end, I only gave it 3 stars. I feel like this is a very much a booktube world, favorite. Everyone seems to love Daisy Jones and the Six. And I enjoyed it, but I struggled with the format and what that could give me in the end. I thought it was very different. The format is different, and I enjoyed that. However, in interviews, you don't get the rawness of someone's internal thoughts. What they tell an interviewer is very different from what they think in their head, and I feel like we missed that, knowing the characters intimately. Now, don't get me wrong, some characters really did have this like full development, and you knew different sides of the characters to a certain extent. And I enjoyed that. Like Daisy, I definitely felt like we really got to know her. Billy is another character we really got to know. But there were many band members where it was like, they are one-dimensional. They don't have a lot of depth to them, and I did not like that. I've struggled with that. Now, Taylor Jenkins Reid does this fun thing in her books where there are, of course, twists and turns in the plot itself, but there's also this subplot because it's an interview. She does twists and turns in that as well. I did not enjoy, in fact, I was kind of annoyed by the twist of the subplot. I didn't like it, and I didn't feel like it was very realistic, personally. However, I did tear up, 100% teared up at the end of this book. But I do recommend it, like, especially the audiobook. The audiobook was amazing. I think it might be the best audiobook I've ever listened to, because the narrators just like embodied these characters so well. I would say everyone I loved except for Karen. I think her name was Karen. I really thought there were times in here where very serious things were going on, and she was like, it's just like this, and just like very casual about very serious things that even the words that she's saying are saying it was serious and difficult for her. I don't want to give any spoilers, that's why I'm not explaining more, but there's a very serious thing that she goes through, and the narrator presented it like it was no big deal, and I didn't like that. But everyone else I thought did a remarkable job. So that said, I still gave it 3 stars. It's not as good as The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, in my opinion. But there is that. Now, the very best book that I read this July was definitely The Secret Life of Bees by Sue Monk Kidd. Oh man, this is so layered and so beautiful, and it's quite short. It's like, I don't know, nearly 300 pages, but not quite. This follows a young white girl in the South. She lives in South Carolina, and it's 1964. She has no mother. Her mother was killed suddenly as a child, and she has memories of the death, but they're hazy. She has a father who is neglectful, and he's verbally abusive, and he's just a not very nice person in general. And so she really leans, I should say, on this woman who works for the family named Rosaline. She's Black. It's a very exciting day for them in South Carolina, where Black people are able to go and vote, and so she is on her way to town to vote, and she is stopped by these horrible racist men, and she stands up for herself in a really ballsy kind of way, and they attack her. She's put in jail. Essentially what happens is our main character, Lily, has to get Rosaline, and they have to leave this little town. And so they go to a certain place called Tiburon in South Carolina, and they choose that place. Actually, Lily chooses the place because she has a box of things from her mother, and her mother had this figure in this box, and it says Tiburon, South Carolina on it. And so it's just kind of on a whim that she chooses that place, and they end up going to stay with these beekeeping sisters. And the sisters were so layered and very different from one another, and yet all very strong women. And I loved them so much. These Black women raise her up and raise her at a very difficult time in her life. I think she's 14 or something like that when she's in Tiburon. And I just loved every second of this. I loved the theme of Mary. There's a little bit of religion in here. The theme of Mary and the theme of the queen bee kind of scattered throughout this to kind of represent her lost mother and reclaiming that divine female in her life and finding it within herself. It was really good. It was really good, guys. I gave this 5 stars and I'm just so happy I finally read this. And such a good summer read. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful summer read. Okay, and the last book that I read is a poetry collection by Jen Campbell. It's The Girl Aquarium. I could not rate this because I didn't understand a lot of it. Let's be clear. Jen Campbell is a brilliant woman. And I know for a fact the reason that I didn't understand it is I'm just not as intelligent as she is. It's okay. It's okay that I'm not as intelligent. The ones that I did understand, I really did enjoy. I just found some of them so layered in imagery and stuff that I just got lost and I didn't know what she was trying to say to me, to the reader. But that said, it was beautiful. Every poem that I read was beautiful. I particularly liked The Girl Aquarium. There's a poem in here called The Girl Aquarium. I also really enjoyed Kitchen and also Hello Dark. Hello Dark actually made me tear up. So the ones that I got and understood, I really understood and they really hit home. I would definitely recommend this if you are someone who reads a lot of poetry. I would so highly recommend reading this. I just didn't feel right giving it a rating if I didn't understand it because that's not fair to the book, if that makes any sense. So I read this as well. And then that's it. That's all. I was also starting to read Jane Eyre and The Night Visitor and Paul Tremblay's Growing Things. So those were on the go, but they were not finished by the end of July. So they'll have to creep over into August, which is perfectly fine. It's fine. Let me know in the comments below if you had a better reading month than me. In terms of quantity, I read a lot of great quality, but in terms of quantity, I would love to know. And I will talk with you soon. Okay, bye guys.